Good morning and welcome to KTN Life and Style Relationship Wednesday. Talk to Pastor Chris Martin Gevenji again, sitting in for Pastor Chris. Karibuni sana wherever you're watching us from. We are at Limak Suits along Kiambu Road, just next to Four Ways Junction Estate. This is a very nice, cool and chill place in case you want to bring your family. They have fully furnished, serviced apartments. So to come relax with your family, take a holiday away from, in the city, but away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Remember, our social media handles are KTN Life _style on Twitter. On Facebook, it's KTN Life and Style. And you can also email on lifeandstyle@standardmedia.co.ke. Get to interact with us, throw in your conversation starters or what you'd like us to talk about. Or did we talk about something that touched on your life personally? We are going to probably interact with it right here on Relationship Wednesday. Now, today I have a very interesting topic. We are going to be discussing forgiveness in relationships. That's right, forgiveness in relationships. And before I go much further, I'd like to, of course, introduce the panel that I'll be having this discussion with. And I probably will begin from my far left. Pauline, karibu sana. Please, if you don't mind, introduce yourself.
My name is Pauline Wanjiko. I am a transformation coach.
All right, karibu sana. Right, and we have two of our very regular resident rabble rousers, Douglas.
Okay, my name is Douglas. I'm a relationship coach and a marriage counselor, and I'm married. Yep.
All right. Yes, Ruth.
Martin, it's very good to see you again. My name is Ruth Bolo. I'm a fashion designer and a motivational speaker.
All right, and it's a good place that Douglas has started us off at. He said he is married.
Yes, I'm married.
Okay, yes, Ruth?
Comments withheld.
No, it's Relationship Wednesday. You have to state your relationship status.
I don't think so. I think for the safety of those who are at home, I shall reserve my comments. But I promise to give more information next time.
Yes, so. And Pauline?
I'm separated.
Currently separated. Interesting. We are going to hear more about that as we tackle forgiveness in relationship. Now, scientific studies have shown that forgiveness is one of the most important factors in a relationship. Yes, the words "I'm sorry," we are told, are some of the heaviest to help put a chord in a relationship. But even more important than "I'm sorry" is "I forgive you," because what happens after "I'm sorry"? Now, couples who practice forgiveness are more likely to stay longer and have more satisfying romantic relationships. And not just couples, but people, regular people who practice forgiveness in relationships, whether it is spousal relationships or friendships, they are said to even live much longer. Fact or myth? We are going to delve into that so we can understand fully the dynamics of forgiveness in relationships. So, karibuni sana. Haya, where do we start? Nataka kurushiwa mawe ya kwanza. Let's start with you, Pauline, because we'd want to define the context of our discussion around something specific. But first, how can you define forgiveness in relationships?
I think first, let's talk about relationships. What are relationships? Because it's really just a connection with different people who you're probably like born with, your siblings. You relate to them in a particular way in the home setting, your mother, your father. You also get out of home, you have your classmates in primary school, you go to high school. These are people you're relating. And every person brings to you something. You're connected because of something that they bring. Maybe they make you happy, maybe they make you realize something about yourself. So everyone points you to a certain part in your life. In every relationship, whether be it in work relationship, there will be that boss who will just poke you in the worst places, but they're not the enemy. They're really helping you see something that you need to look at. And then eventually we build on the long-term relationships when it comes to marriages. And marriages are things that, again, we're connected because of some attraction. you're attracted to somebody because there's something in them which you can't explain that makes you come alive. And that thing, you find yourself getting deeper and deeper. And in the beginning, as we all know, it's honeymoon, right? We have fun, like we're looking and we're just swimming in the sun, in the ocean. Then reality checks in, because for how long can we be like happy? How long can we be on honeymoon? The reality comes up. And just like actually what it does, relationships, is they point us back to our first relationship, which is what? Our mother and father. And that those things our mothers and fathers did to us we didn't like, because they saw us in a way we did not want to be seen. They called us out to be what we needed to be and we were not willing to be. They pushed us out of our comfort zone.
And I like that you've mentioned mothers and fathers, because what I'd probably throw to Douglas is, as children growing up, we are taught that mistakes are punished. Okay? Mistakes are punished. Now we are adults and we are told that relationships, you should forgive. You know, so this brings about a lot of fighting in relationships. So why are people really fighting in relationships?
But I think what we need to do first of all is to know what is forgiveness, because some of us will assume that forgiveness is covering up, or forgiveness is just maybe sweeping up whatever has been done under the carpet. And forgiveness is not what we think, that maybe is assumption that probably this guy has known what he did. And forgiveness is always something that must be spoken out with the other person. The offender must speak to the offended party and speak it out that, you know what, I've forgiven you. So like you mentioned, saying sorry is not enough, but sorry must come in with the word, I forgive you. Yeah, so when we know what forgiveness is, then we're able to go into any relationship knowing that, you know what, if this one happens, I don't need to assume, I don't need to cover up, I don't need to go silent, or I don't need to do what, to just wait for him to come. I'll say one thing about forgiveness is, I always tell people, if you're not ready to forgive someone, please don't get in a relationship. If you're not ready to forgive, don't end in a relationship, because once you get into a relationship, like she said, there are things that to mask, but at the end of it is there's an unmasking that takes place. After the first few dates, now you come to know that this is the real person. And all of us have flaws, all of us have shortcomings, all of us have our weakest points. So it means if I'm not ready to accommodate or to see a flaw in you and just help you to grow out of it, then I don't need to get married or get a relationship.
So are you saying that people do not, people end up in fights because they're not ready to forgive each other?
Yes, most of us they're ready, but what they do is they assume that that person is ready to see or to read from their mind that they've been forgiven. So what happens is some of us have that, like you say, from our parenthood. Some of us have grown up in families where we have not seen forgiveness happen in our families.
Mostly to us as the children.
Yeah, us as the children. Not by it's a punishment that you get out of what you have done wrong. But you see, of stages in life, but as you grow, if I just quote somewhere in the script, she says that children obey your parents, and then it says honor your mother and father. Now, there's a stage of honoring, there's a stage of obeying. Meaning, there's a time you need just to obey. You did this, you didn't cook, you didn't take lunch, you didn't do your homework, it's a thorough beating. But now when you get to the stage of honor, you know, if this one happens, it shall still honor you, but I don't need to go through the punishment. Yeah, so we need to accommodate one another and forgive. And forgiveness is spoken. It is not assumption.
It is not assumed.
Yes.
I like that. Ruth, do you have forgiveness in your vocabulary?
Of course, I have forgiveness in my vocabulary. But you know what Douglas is saying? It sounds beautiful in theory. Because if we're being very honest, you know, there are a number of times you've told someone, I forgive you. But the minute something bad happens to them, you are celebrating. The minute your ex or someone, you know, has gone through a difficult time or has moved on, you're busy singing Tony Braxton's He Wasn't Man Enough for Me, you know. So there's forgiveness, just saying you've forgiven someone for the sake of it. And there's the pure and very honest forgiveness, whereby you are happy for the person when they move on, and yourself, you don't really dwell on the past. And there's also the reality that sometimes when we say we have forgiven, we do not forget. And we really, and for most people, they forgive, especially in a relationship, they will forgive you once they have either punished you or they have seen that you really, really regret the mistake you have done. And for you to really, really regret the mistake you have done, you will go through a lot. And most ladies we know, it is very difficult for them to forgive in relationships.
No, ladies
so it
forgive.
exists. They do forgive at long last, but not as easily as we think, especially because most of the time men don't know when they wrong us, right? So yes, that is why you find a lot of times men ask, but what did I do? Or what did I say wrong, right? So for us, it is very easy to say, yes, forgiveness is good, it is easy to forgive, it helps you move on past relationships. But one thing I always truly believe is, one, mistakes must be punished. And two, you can, one thing that we need to be very honest about is forgiveness is not as easy as we make it sound. And there are some mistakes that make it very difficult to forgive.
True. Forgiveness is not as hard as it is defined. It's not cotton dry, you know. But Pauline, before Douglas and Ruth endelea kushikana mashati zaidi, I just want her to just give me a response to something. Why is it important to forgive? Why forgive, basically? Because she's here saying, forgiveness sometimes, but there is the religious reason of forgive 70 times 7 times and then forgive and forget. It is not forgiven if it is not forgotten. And then there is the sociological aspect of it. Kuna watu wata plead to wasamehewe lakini bado walifanya kitu na wataenda jela, you know. But now we're looking at specifically in relationships. Why is it important to forgive?
Forgiveness, I think, first, you forgive for you, not for the other person.
True.
Because if you don't, then what you've just done is blocked yourself from living beyond that point. Because what you do is you create a museum around and begin to worship whatever it is that the person did that you're unable to move past. So you never ever experience life beyond that point. So say, for example, somebody in a relationship, somebody cheated on you. What you will, from that point, you never get to see anything else. You will remind that person over and over. So think about it. Are you living?
No,
All you're focusing on is that.
You were cheated
and you
on.
have created a movement around that. Your life will never move beyond that point of that one thing that they did. So you have ceased to live. So until you go beyond it and say, look at it, because the one aspect I do, like, begin to help you see every relationship that you are in is really a mirror for you. The person is there to help you look at yourself. So if you are fighting, all you're doing is you're fighting yourself.
There are people who don't like having that mirror held in front of them.
You know what it is? Half the time, if I ask many people, if you look at yourself in the mirror, many people are not comfortable looking at themselves for a while because you're like, oh my God, I don't like what I see. And that's exactly the person who is with you 24/7. What they're mirroring to you is what's in you. And there is actually a saying that says that irritates you about someone else is really just what's in you. And you're just getting upset because it's in you. So think for a minute and pause and change what you're saying about that person and remove the person's name and put yourself.
All right.
Now, if I was to say, say for example, even I'm going to look at a guy, I mean a chicken, I'm going to say, shh, now if I stop for a moment, I say, ew, what does that make me think? I pause and I'm like, okay, I will not be able to say those words
to somebody else
that.
again. Yes, this is true. So number one reason to forgive is first
for yourself.
For yourself.
Absolutely.
Douglas.
Yes.
Back to you and Ruth.
No, I'll just echo what Pauline said, because forgiveness is not for the other person. It's always for you. And forgiveness does not necessarily need a response of it's okay immediately. Because some of us, is we want to say, I've forgiven you, and you want the other person to feel okay immediately. Because when we put that, we stage manage, we try to pin that person to do whatever we feel, then we'll be like forcing them to accept our forgiveness. So one thing is, forgiveness is different from healing. It takes time for someone to heal from whatever hurt, from whatever mistake that you have done to them. But it shows respect, and like Ruth said, it's a sacrifice. The other person has to go down his ego and to unwrap anything that maybe makes him feel like he's the strongest man,
Oh, yes.
and do what? Ask for forgiveness. So forgiveness must make you to sacrifice some things, either your ego, either your position, either your status in that relationship. So it's not like an immediate thing. And secondly, is the other person has to respond, yes, I've accepted forgiveness, but it takes time to heal. So forgiveness does not heal immediately. Now, what Truth was saying, I want to say that most people think that forgiveness is not only possible when cheating has happened. One of the things that takes place that needs to be forgiven even before when we call it cheating being the major thing that needs forgiveness. The other small thing, that the most important thing that we see, that maybe this is just someone didn't maybe arrange the shoes well, or he didn't pick my calls, or maybe probably
Food has too much salt.
he didn't fulfill his promise of taking me out. You see, when you say that forgive me, I was on traffic, it need to be accepted. But for us, we magnify that forgiveness must be only acted in the act of where someone has done what? Cheated. So I'll say forgiveness is the key for any successful relationship. And if you can't forgive, it means you can't enjoy the present. Even whatever is coming out which is good, you can't enjoy it. And when you forgive, you get out yourself out of it.
Infidelity in itself is one of the major reasons why there's a lack of trust. And what we're looking towards, the end result of receiving or getting forgiveness, is mending back that trust that was, somewhat broken.
Martin, I do agree. Forgiveness is very important. I do agree. And it helps you strengthen your relationship, move past things. It helps you take off that burden. But here's the thing. There are steps to getting there. Yeah. There are steps to having to by the time you get to forgive someone, by the time you collect yourself and forgive someone, either you've gotten the closure you wanted, or you've realized it's not as big as you're making it sound, or you actually sincerely feel the other person is remorseful, right? I do agree cheating is not the only we've really magnified it, but look at a situation whereby someone has said, made you late more than once, more than twice, more than thrice. That's habitual. And the person keeps saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I feel each time you forgive this person, especially immediately, you're only telling this person, keep going. It is not a big deal.
No.
You can do it again. So, for me, I believe, just like I said, mistakes should be punished. The minute you start forgiving and when you punish a mistake, it also helps you heal. You heal very fast.
But how do you punish someone who has maybe habitually been late? What is the punishment you give that person?
Silent treatment.
Because the punishment you need to give that person
there's always a punishment for everything.
But the silent treatment,
yes.
Ruth, the silent treatment, is it for you? Because you're upset with them, so you're not talking. So who is it hurting? Is it you or the other person?
No, the other person. How is it hurting?
But you're not
How
talking.
sure are you?
See, this is the thing.
What if they didn't want you to talk to them?
Yes.
And this is actually helping?
What happened?
This is the thing. If I am annoyed at you and I'm not talking to you, in my head, I am very happy because I think I am hurting you, even when I'm not. So it gives me peace.
But
the other person, it gives me peace.
I am annoyed.
The same way forgiveness is going to give me peace. Me thinking I'm punishing you will give me peace. But at the same time, this is what I always say. When you feel you're not ready to forgive someone, but there are times you must forgive. The only way is to forgive this person, especially for your relationship to keep going. Apply selective amnesia, Ruth, until you're able to move past.
One of the major effects of unforgiveness is anger, resentment, bitterness, and trying to do something that maybe may hurt the other person.
But you see,
and what you are doing is, the moment you're saying, I'm not going to forgive you, let me do a silent treatment, you are harboring anger in your heart, you are becoming bitter, and the next thing is, you may do something that will show that person is, you made a mistake, and you thought it is just a simple thing. So silent treatment will cause you more harm than the other person.
But I also see where she's coming from, because she's talking about circumstances that are very common and prevail with this person. But you see, you say yes, sometimes you might not be ready to forgive, but like again I said, there is forgiveness from the religious context, and then there's from the social context, where it is apparently a scientific study, and scientists have said that forgiveness is actually a skill that you have to learn.
First step towards forgiveness, or towards maybe the process of forgiveness, is communication. Once you have communicated what hurts you, now the offended party to the offender, then it's easy to forgive. Because some of us, like I said, you see, I might have done a mistake or something that for me it's like a normal thing. Probably I didn't know that it hurts you. Now, if you don't communicate with me that, you know what, whatever you did, you coming late, I didn't feel it good, so at least next time come early. So the problem that we have is we assume the other person knows that whatever he has done is an offense. So one way is communicate. If you have been offended, communicate the other part. You know what, this one is not what I expected from you. I think don't do it again. But the moment we assume that the other person knows this is a mistake, then in our hearts we expect them to come and ask us for forgiveness. And for them, they're enjoying life. Things are normal. They're dancing, they're eating, they're praying, they're doing whatever they're doing.
Basically talking about
Yes.
all men.
But
Who are
even
oblivious.
ladies,
Who
men.
are oblivious
Yeah,
to-
even the ladies
we-
who are
we
like,
have,
I didn't know
re-
this had to do.
We have
I was
received more
not.
accusations of not knowing
Yes,
what we
what
have
to
done.
do.
Yes.
Yeah, because Ruth will be like, okay, if probably I'm dating Ruth, then I'm like, Ruth, can we meet at 4? Then Ruth is coming at 11. Of course, she's at night 11 anyway. She's well dressed up, and then she has done all the good makeup like she is today. And then for me, it's like, man, you look so hot, you look so nice, but you're late. And for her, it was, I was doing this for you, I was doing my makeup, I had to do this, I had to go and do this. And so, see, for me, I'll be offended. And for her, she's enjoying life. She's like, can we eat this? Can we dance this? So until I tell Ruth, this is what has, I'm not feeling good. As much as you look beautiful and you look nice in the evening dress, but you're late. It has offended me. So I'll say that the first point of forgiveness is communicate to the other person that this is not right. Can we work on this? And then give room for this person to change. If they don't change, remind them that, you know what, this is not right. And like we said, when you sweep it under the carpet, then it's not forgiveness.
I like what you say
Speak it
about
out.
also reminding them, because from how I remember us defining communication
Yes.
is that where you pass information
Yes.
and you receive a response.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, positive or negative,
Yeah.
yeah, but at least you receive a response. So with that reminding, in Amkumbusha, there's something you're not doing right, and they try and fix it that again. Ruth.
I will agree on one thing. Mine's very simple. I'll agree that the first point is communication. But don't always expect the other person to agree that they have done a mistake. Don't always rush it also, because sometimes when you're still very annoyed or hurt by someone and you rush to communicate, you might end up doing more damage.
One of the biggest causes of conflict is expectation. Now, is it a true assessment by saying people are in relationships with fantasy partners as opposed to the real partners?
I think so. Very true. Now, for me, I think when I look back, I was married for 15 years. And I got married, like, well, I was still very young. I wasn't in my 30s yet. And it was excited. I mean, it was exciting. I mean, this guy just brought the best out of me. We were friends and all that. And when I look back, what I realize is we all get into relationship from a high. From a very unconscious point, it's just the emotions. Really the emotions that are pumping. So at the point that it graduates from like courtship to now engagement, and now we're getting married, we're all just in the flow, you know, it's just good, and oh my God, he's engaged me, oh my God, I'm getting married. And I look back and I'm like, very unconscious. We did not sit down and really decide, okay, I like you, Martin, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But what I'm looking for, I need a lover, I need a husband, I need someone who will parent our children together, someone will grow. We don't speak about what I expect in this relationship.
Yes.
It is
Before.
just before.
Yes.
So we just end up like, oh my God, now we're in a relationship, it's moved to the next level, we're engaged, honeymoon, oh, babies are coming. Oh, now babies have come. Okay, so now what next? Baby number 2 is here. So at the point where everything is traveling so fast, you're like, wait, what just happened? And then remember, as you're getting into this relationship, you're different. When I look back 15 years, who I was when I got married is not who I am today. I have been growing and changing and seeing life totally different. So at what point do we come in a relationship from a conscious point and say, you know what, Martin, when we got together, this is how I looked at life. But right now, I'm seeing life totally different. I don't believe in this. I feel this more. Where are you at? We don't review that. So that causes conflicts in marriages, because I'm like, okay, when I met Martin, I felt like going out was a thing. Now I'm not feeling going out is a thing. I feel like I need to focus more on like what I'm feeling. I need to go back to school. Then when I decided to go back to school, you're like, wait, Martin, Pauline, I thought we were supposed to be having fun. What is it? Why are you changing suddenly? I'm like, okay, I just don't feel this way anymore. You're still feeling this, and me, I'm feeling this way. So we don't sit down and review and say, you know what? It's been 7 years, and I mean, I feel different about this thing. How are you feeling? Because that's the point where we're seeing a lot of the things that we're seeing today in relationships. People are fighting. Yet these were people who were so good together. But because they've changed from the people they found each other as, they have not been able to sit down and review. And there's a reason as to why the contracts for jobs.
Hata kwa ofisi,
Exactly.
miaka 5 unaenda unasema,
Exactly.
guys.
Because you know, when I came
Tuangalie.
into this organization,
Yes.
I felt this way. Now, I've been exposed. I see things differently. I expect ABCD. Let's review this contract. Why can't we do the same in a relationship? Because we're changing. I mean, 15 years. And now it's not the same thing. You don't
You're clearly
expect you
not.
look at me in the same way. So that's the point of conflict. And I feel that's where we're failing in relationships. And the more we keep doing this, the more conflicts arise. And this is just a crisis that's making us review and change how we are connecting with each other.
Martin, just one thing on what she said. I think I think we are from different generations, Pauline and I, and something I have seen in my generation, maybe it's just the people I hang around with, but something I've seen in my generation is when people are getting into a relationship, we normally, just as you've said, we have a lot of expectations. But for us, on the other end, when we get into a relationship, even though, you know, that point just before we agree we are now in a relationship, you know, when we are still courting, we talk about these things. We say, hey, I'm 25, I'm 28, and this is what I want in the next 4 years. So are we on the same path or not? If we are not, let's go a different way. I need to, you know. So that's, I feel like that's something different, and not just from her generation, even my parents' generation and before, people really never used to really talk about these crucial things. But right now, as we are getting into the relationship, even before we are sure we want to try this out, we make sure we air out all these things.
Yeah.
Where do you want to live?
I see that.
What are you doing? I think that's the difference right
Yeah.
now,
Actually,
and it's really working.
It's
I
the
would say.
exposure that those
But
who are
also,
living in
I
this
hear where you are, Ruth, saying that, like, you can say the goals, but even the goals that you have now at this age
Are
will
going to
not be
change.
the goal.
Different,
Well,
definitely.
exactly.
That's the point.
But do you come back after those years when you're seeing life differently and discuss that? That's a point of contention. Yes. When you sat together and started the relationship, you wanted to go this way. But
Then
now
now
life
you've
has taken you
evolved.
this way, and now you're seeing things totally different. Yes.
I think I'll agree with both of them today.
Wow.
Very, very
Wow,
sober.
very rare.
Yeah, this is so rare.
Lunch is on you guys.
Yeah, so I think on the point of expectations, because that's the one of the major factors of conflicts in relationships and marriages, because some of us go into a relationship or in a marriage with the expectation that we only know. So there are unspoken expectations. So once I get into that, I expect the other person to do what we have not even discussed.
You should know. Unajua,
Yeah, you
si
should
unafaa
know.
kujua mwanaume
Because
anafaa
yeah,
kufanya,
'cause,
mwanamke
yeah,
anafaa
fine.
kufanya.
So for us, it's like I've learned something from my parents. So I expect when I get married, it's an automatic from my wife to do it for me.
To have learnt it from
Yes,
her
I
parents.
also learned from my parents, and not knowing that probably what her parents used to do is not what my parents are doing. So the problem is we have unspoken expectations, and we expect the other person to do what to fulfill them. The second thing I want to say is one problem that we have is we have expectations, but we don't have a clause to it. What if they're not met? What if she does not do it? Because like there's a friend of mine who I think she gave a very hard question to some of the guys who are counseling. That what if you get married to this lady immediately, she gets an accident and you become paralyzed. Next year, getting married, the second anniversary, she's paralyzed. Will you still stay with her? So the what ifs is, what if what we have already discussed cannot come to happen? Like you said, you want to go back to school, and probably there are no funds. So what if maybe your husband says that, yes, you want to go back to school for 5 years, but our budget is still limited. Can you adjust to it? So expectations are very good, but write down, what if this is not met? What if this is not met? Will I still adjust, or will I walk out of this marriage?
Ati huyu
Yes.
amesota, wacha niende
Yes.
nitafute mtu mwingine anaweza
Yes,
nilipia
yes.
shule.
Yeah, so
Now,
discuss them out.
yeah, I want to bring back something that you mentioned, using the example of the man who expected the lady at, okay, you expected Ruth At 4, she came at 11 p.m. She looks very nice. And then you are there aggrieved at the point where she is late, where you say, umechelewa, I expected you at this time. And then she also starts feeling aggrieved because, can't you see, I've been doing
for you,
all this for you. So it becomes, both of you are now the aggrieved, and both of you are also the aggriever. Now, brings me to the question. There's cooperative versus competitive goals, where you see in relationships where people argue for the sake of, I'm the one who won this argument. It's not really about resolving, which sends relationships down the rabbit hole even further. So, Ruth, don't you feel amazing? The example he gave had you as the subject.
Bring it on.
So, don't you feel that holding on to your end of the story, you know, it compromises the relationship further and brings more separation and discord?
Honestly, it could. But and I'll say again, my generation, one, we don't have patience. And we don't have time. I don't know.
Which is actually something you need.
Yeah, which is something we do need to have. I agree. And that's why there are a lot of divorce rates in my generation. After 3 years of doing a grand wedding, we are back in court. We are, you know, so it's something we need. But unfortunately, the reality is that it's something we don't have. It's something we lack that we need to learn. And we don't have time. I don't understand what we do, but we don't have the time, which is more or less the same thing. You find that in a relationship, even when it's something very small that can be resolved, our egos are up there and we just talk and say, hi, this is how I look at it. Are you agreeing with it or not? We go our separate ways. Or are you agreeing with it or not? You move into the next. You know, it's normally that inhumane, if I may call it. And that's why I was saying, even for our generation, when certain things have happened, we get to a point, because you'll realize even when we are addressing elders or whatever, we refuse to be disrespected. You know, before, initially, even if an elder walks on you, it's okay. But right now, my generation can't take that. And that's why we really need a lot of people to walk with us. And one thing we have not yet realized is that when you're both on your high, one needs to calm down. One needs to come to a level where they say, hey, I know I have wronged you and I am sorry. Even though you know really it was out of retaliation or you were provoked or it was the other person, one of you needs to calm down and say, I'm sorry. Can we resolve this? Not because you're wrong, but for the sake of your relationship.
Ruth, I think I'll say no to that. Because one thing I know is never say sorry for what you didn't do.
Absolutely.
Because the moment you do that, the next time even you are genuinely saying sorry for what you did, it won't be accepted. Secondly,
let me just clarify something. If you have wronged me,
yes,
and I have retaliated,
yes,
I should say sorry, because there are different ways I could have handled it. There, I should say sorry. If I have stepped on you, and you have talked badly to me, you should say sorry.
Yeah, that is different. That's different from
that's
admitting
the case
a mistake
I am
that you
saying.
didn't do. Yeah,
No, even
yeah.
me, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
No way.
And then the second thing I think he asked about the 50, the winning on I won this. I'm the one in the argument, and at least I've put you down. I think when the most important thing is no one is supposed to be losing in any conflict in marriage.
Exactly.
The moment you're like it's a win and lose conflict resolution, there's a problem. So it should be whereby all of us are winning or all of us are losing. So one thing is never tackle a situation or a conflict in marriage or relationship, and then you come out like, you see, I knew this was going to happen. So never be like you're the winning person, but whatever you're going to resolve, let it be like we have done this together, actually we're moving on together. So it's not a win or lose situation,
right?
But it's a win and win situation.
All right. At least one last question before we now start wrapping up with our finishing remarks. How do we get to that place of forgiveness? How, for example, do you mend? Because forgiveness comes with forgetting, and it means if you're aggrieved, Ruth does not agree.
Come with forgetting. They don't come with forgetting. They don't, but okay.
Well, I feel, forgetting I would say emotional state's not really the mistake, because if you keep on remembering this is what you made me feel when you cheated, that's all you'll feel the entire time. But how do you start the process of mending the trust back? For example, if it's something like trusting that person with time, let's not just go to infidelity, you know, trusting that person with time, how do you mend that trust back? Because we want to know how exactly to forgive in relationships, because that's our bottom line.
I think the offender must start working on the words. He must practice what he's saying. If he has maybe asked for forgiveness, then they've been forgiven, then he must walk the talk. So he must start acting in a way that the person who maybe pardon her or pardon him is seeing a change. There must be some change, a transformation, or some differences from the person or the mistake that he used to do. If it is coming late, this person has adjusted, started coming early, then trust is built. But we will not say that maybe there's forgiveness that will take part immediately, because most of us is like, when I forgive, you need to forget it immediately. It's not easy, because once something has been stored in someone's heart, it takes time also to get it out. Exactly. So forgiveness is not automatically leading to forgetting, because healing is what will lead to forgetting. So healing is a process. Forgiveness is just a statement of showing that you have pardoned yourself. Yeah.
I think forgiveness, how to begin to do it is exercise a point where you have been unable to forgive, and how your life has been with that person. Every time you see that person, what comes up? And when you allow yourself to experience every emotion that comes with that holding back the forgiveness, and allow yourself to really feel it, because what we do is we avoid to feel emotions. That those emotions that we have labeled as bad emotions, so we avoid to feel them. But yet those are the very emotions that take us to break us open, to be more, and see really who we are. And we begin to experience ourselves in a new light, and that opens a lot of you into the world, and you begin to see different things in the same situation, but what you receive out of it is totally different. Because what happens is, when I am not forgiving, what I am holding back is because I expect a particular behavior from this person, and they're not giving me that behavior. And where did that expectation come from? It is someone who passed it to me and told me, when somebody doesn't do ABCD, it means 1, 2, 3. But that's based on that person, and I have bought that and made that to be true for me, instead of allowing myself to experience it in the way that I want best it to serve me. And it's reason why, because we're living in a world where we expect everything to come from the outside. And when we have placed our hopes, our happiness, our success on the outside, so we're always looking for people to present it to us, forgetting that everything that we crave for, everything we seek, the success, the happiness, comes from within. So it is not that person who will make me happy.
Yes.
It is not by them behaving in a particular way that I'll be happy. I am unhappy because I've chosen to be unhappy. I am going to be happy because I want to be happy. And it doesn't matter if you come up late, if you cheat on me, it doesn't matter. That's your journey to walk. It's not mine. And I'm choosing to be happy right now because I have everything that I need within me. For as long as we're living life from the outer to the inner, we shall be miserable.
Okay.
We shall fight to forgive.
Now, as people just now give their wrapping up remarks, I want you to also touch on this. What are the things that are unforgivable for you? Unforgivable. So, to the point that, as you said, tunaachana tukiendaga, kwa sababu imefika hapo where it's like, because Pauline, for example, you separated, you had your reason why you said hii ishie hapa, but you've still forgiven them, but you're not together, you know. So
before I answer that, I will start with my closing remarks. When it comes to forgiveness, sometimes your relative, your brother, your sister, your mother might not forgive your partner. So be very careful with the kind of information you share out, so that your partner does not end up being a discussion in those family events. What is unforgivable to me? Because one, I really value respect. So the minute you disrespect me, especially in public, you know, when it's just the two of us, then we can fix that. But the minute you disrespect me in public, that's a problem. The minute you cheat and I find out, because it's different if you cheat and I don't find out. So the minute you cheat and I find out, that is completely unforgivable. So those tweeters zingine tunaweza fuliza.
Wow.
all right.
Thank you, Ruth. Now, what I will also just point it out as a closing remark and point it to Ruth. One thing I always tell people is, uh, before you say this is my standard of unforgiveness, this is what I'll not forgive you. Now put the mirror like you said in front of you. What if the same happened to you? Will you still cry and say that please just give me another chance? I am sorry for this. So I will say this: never put a standard of unforgiveness to the other person, because the same standard can be used against you. And what will you say about that? So, so never, 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 ever point out a close one. But this one, if you do this, I'll not forgive you.
Ruth is a hardliner.
Yeah, 'cause it can happen to you. About the unforgivable sin is, I'll say, is as much as you can talk about it, everything is forgivable. If people cannot come into an agreement, then even just a small thing, maybe probably cooking, can be unforgiven. So it requires communication. Nothing is big, nothing is small. Communication makes a difference out of it. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Lastly, Pauline.
I think for me, there's really nothing that's unforgivable, because everything points me to a new phase of my life. And it doesn't matter. Yes, you'll cheat on me, but moving on doesn't mean I don't forgive you. It just means I have learned the lesson that you came to teach me, and it's time for me to move on and learn other lessons. So everything that you do, when you think you're doing to me, you're actually doing it for me. So it doesn't matter whatever it is that you do. I choose to look at it as a point of growth for me. So I believe everyone shows up in my life to teach me the lesson that I need to learn for the next phase of my life that's about to unfold. And if I don't learn that, people keep showing up to teach me the same lesson. So that's it.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pauline. Thank you very much, Douglas. And again, thank you very much, Ruth. You're a resident rebel rouser. Tunakupenda sana. Asante sana. And thank you very much for joining us. What lesson will you learn from whatever happens to you that requires you to forgive or not? Kitandikwa kofi, utalan kwamba chiki yako husikia uchungu. What lesson will you derive from it? And also, always get an answer to this question. When you go into a relationship and you have expectations, what if those expectations are not met? What if they are not met? How will you navigate the expectations not getting met? Thank you very much for joining us on Life and Style Relationship Wednesday. Remember, social media handles: Twitter, KTN Life_Style, Facebook, KTN Life and Style, and also email on lifeandstyle@standardmedia.co.ke. I have had an interesting and wonderful panel discussion tonight. And until next week, please get your questions answered and learn to forgive. This is not just for Ruth, everybody else. Learn to forgive. Have a wonderful day.